So I've been playing a lot of Black Ops 6 Zombies recently, and one of the main things I've been doing is trying to grind out the camos. Now to me, this is a completely new experience when it comes to that Zombies mode. As I've mentioned before in previous videos, I never played Black Ops Cold War, so actually grinding out camos in the Zombies mode is a little bit of a novelty. I know you had it in Black Ops 3, but it was nothing like the standard of what we've got here today in Black Ops 6. Now generally speaking, I have been really enjoying the grind of getting these camos. It's really refreshing to myself to actually play the mode and not just go for high rounds constantly or try to complete the Easter eggs constantly. It's a nice, refreshing, different thing to add to the gameplay. However, I feel like there's definitely some flaws in the grinding of camos in this mode, and I can completely understand why they've been getting some form of backlash from the community. So let's sit back and take a deep dive into the issues which Black Ops 6 Zombies has when it comes to earning these camos. Also, if you are new here and you are enjoying Black Ops 6 Zombies as much as me, please do consider subscribing because we will be covering a lot of this game over on the channel. So when it comes to the camos in Black Ops 6 specifically, the main thing that you're going to spend most of your time doing, at least initially speaking, is getting your critical kills. Now this is essentially the equivalent of headshots in multiplayer, and to be honest, it's not the hardest thing to do. I would say it probably takes around 2 to 3 games, maybe 3.5, if you're going for say 2000 with a specific gun. I'll be honest, I only really have been going for the assault rifles at this point, so if there is any more difficult ones, say with the pistols for example, that become explosive, I can understand that that might be harder to get a critical kill with. But generally speaking, the process that has been regarded as sort of the most meta and easiest way to get them is to get till about round 31, where you get about 5,000 manglers and shit starts hitting the fan, get your headshots, exfil, go home, load it back up, and rinse and repeat until you're done. From what I've seen, the meta has changed slightly recently with this introduction of the director mode, where you can now sort of get to around round 15, have the manglers spawn in, get your critical kills, and it will sort of just keep rinsing and repeating the same round. And I think that leads nicely into the first point of this video, which is that 2000 headshots on its own is quite a lot, right? Now, before you guys all jump at me in the comments, I appreciate that it is 500 less than Cold War, which I believe was 2500. However, the difference is that within Cold War, you could unlock camos at the same time. So whereas in Black Ops 6, where you're reliant on getting the 2000 critical kills before you get, say, the 10 elite enemy kills or getting 300 pack-a-punch weapon kills, you could do all of that at the same time within Cold War, and that obviously saved the player so much time. It felt as if you were rewarded for what you were doing and not being gatekept into only being able to complete one objective at a time. Now speaking of being gatekept into one sole objective, another thing that we need to point out with Black Ops 6 is that it is very difficult to level up multiple weapons at once. Now there's two main reasons for this. Obviously one of them, and this is a key one, is the scarcity of resources. I get that you can attach a suppressor to your weapon to get more scrap, but if you don't have that, and if you're trying to focus on upgrading 2 guns, you don't have enough there to level up the guns quick enough to make them still viable options compared to the round that they're performing on. Now this is only made harder by the fact that obviously on Black Ops 6, Pack-a-Punch is a 3-tier system which can cost up to 50,000 to get your gun fully maxed out. And when you're trying to do that on 2 weapons and you're doing it in Black Ops 6, which realistically is a game where grabbing points is more difficult because of how the critical damage works, like you don't get rewarded for melee kills as much. All in all, it's a game where points are more scarce in the early rounds, which is exactly when you need them to level up the guns and make them worthwhile using. This essentially causes the player to have different guns at different stages, so you'll have one that you dump all of your resources into and actually try to level up and make a viable killing option. And then you'll have another one there that's as a back burner that you're trying to sort of catch up to the pace with, and by the time you do that, it is about round 31, which is when honestly you're looking to sort of head out of the game anyway, just because of how ridiculous the difficulty scales up at that point. Now again, this obviously isn't helped out by how Black Ops 6 works. Obviously back in the OG days, you just had 1 PAP, or maybe 2 if you were going for an AAT or something. But generally speaking, once you'd papped your gun, which was always only ever 5,000, you were set. You've now got to obviously achieve 10 times that value, which of course is just going to take longer, and doing it on 2 weapons is just not viable. Now from a grinding camo and just general gameplay perspective, this is a little bit disappointing because it does encourage players to exfil. Now I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it encourages them to exfil possibly earlier than you would initially do so. Now, I'm obviously not sure if this is the case or not, but to me, it feels as if since this game is purely dictated on online servers, every single Black Ops 6 Zombies game is technically an online match, even if you're in solo. I'm wondering if this has been done in order to keep the game more stable and discourage players from staying on the servers too long and constantly causing a build-up. I know it's Treyarch and Activision and they have literally billions of fucking pounds and should be able to afford server space, but that's the only reason I can think as to why they wouldn't want to keep players playing more frequently. Because when you think of it, it's not just the camos that obviously get harder, the game itself obviously gets way more challenging. Now obviously this should be the case, when you get longer through a zombies game it should get more difficult, that's the way it's always been. But it's not just the fact that it gets more difficult, the rewards for staying in there longer are not worth the effort whatsoever. As we've said, you obviously can't earn camos as quickly, but in terms of the general XP and levelling up, it's pants. You get so little for staying in there and going up higher rounds. Shifting back more towards the camos, sorry I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but when it comes to them as well, the challenges are very specific in zombies compared to, say, a multiplayer. So in multiplayer you have your 100 headshots, which is nice and standard stuff, right? That's things that you would go out of your way to get anyway. It's just sort of general sort of gameplay, right? Whereas in zombies, it's very specific. Realistically, I can't think when I was playing zombies back in the OG days that I was going out of my way to get headshots. I appreciate it obviously has to be something that the player has to go for, and again, in a way it is good, but to me it almost feels like it's too much of a grind, especially where you're trying to go out and juggle weapons, juggle points, juggle salvage. It all becomes quite a lot, and it does slow the whole process down. And to me, that's what's most confusing about this, is that Treyarch themselves have actually come out and stated that they want to make a conscious effort to make unlocks more favourable to players than what we had in, say, Cold War. However, with how the gameplay is on Black Ops 6, how they've indexed the camos, it's just taken away from this in my opinion, because this is significantly dictating the way that the game is played in order to just unlock these camos. And as we touched on earlier, this is only further highlighted by the poor weapon balancing that this game seems to have at this point. Now don't get me wrong, in terms of guns crapping out at certain rounds, I think that having them get weaker at around round 30 is fine, that's sort of what we're used to. However, since it does take, say, 28 rounds to fully set up a gun, there is no ability to switch your weapon and then fully upgrade another one to that point. Unless if you're going to chew through another significant amount of rounds just to warrant this gun getting closer to the power curve. Now it does appear Treyarch are looking to rectify this. I mean, they've already upgraded a load of the ARs and made them more valuable at those higher rounds, which is good to see, and I'm hoping that they'll continue to do this when we get more updates coming out. I will say from a content perspective, Treyarch do seem to be really killing it with this game. I think they've sort of understood that they've actually captured the zombies community once more with this game. So hopefully they stay on top of it once everybody's actually done their Nebula grinds and we aren't just sort of going to completely fall off a cliff like we have done in other games. But what do you guys think? Have you guys been grinding the camos on Black Ops 6 Zombies? And how is that grind going? Are you guys hitting Nebula anytime soon? I'll be honest, I think I'm going to get the Opal ARs and then get the hell out of here. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching. If you are new here and you have enjoyed the video, please do consider liking and subscribing. It does help out the video really more than you could ever imagine. And I hope to see you guys in another video sometime soon.